Welcome to the Livfiit Listens podcast, a safe space of growth, personal development, and overall wellness with your host, Olivia Catania. Diving into the realms of all things health, conscious living, mental expansion, and much more, this podcast is designed to help you evolve into your best self and live fit. Let's get into the show. Hello, you guys. What's going on? Welcome back to the Livfiit Listens podcast. Today we're on episode 55. And if you were watching on YouTube, you may notice maybe perhaps hopefully an upgrade of quality. And even if you're listening, because I did get some new camera and recording equipment, I got a new podcasting mic, which I'm really excited about. I'm not entirely fully sure how to use it optimally yet, so I'm hoping that I can still kind of go into settings and even optimize the sound even a little bit more. Gonna be honest, kind of just pulled it out of the package and have been sending it. But also, if you're watching on YouTube, I did get a new camera lens. It is the Sigma 16mm f1.4 lens, in case you're curious, and I record on my Canon M50. And I purposely got this lens just because it helps to make the background a little bit blurrier. Again, still figuring out how to use all this equipment, but I was just too excited to not just chuck it on there and see how it would go. And obviously, how am I supposed to learn if I don't experiment? So still need to play around with it and everything, but I'm super, super excited just to overall up the quality of everything. I also got another camera lens for a wide angle lens for vlogging, which I'm super excited about. It's a Canon 11 to 22mm lens. And then I also got some wireless mics, which is super exciting. And I show you guys that in a YouTube vlog that I think should be actually going up the day that this is going live. With that being said, I just guess that seamlessly flows into my gratitude for this episode, and that is just that I'm really thankful that I was able to get all this new camera equipment, because I'm really hoping that it will help me up the quality. I definitely am the type of person, the content creator, who likes to I like being in front of the camera. I like kind of the performative aspect of it, if you will, of kind of just having fun in front of the camera and, obviously sharing my truth and stuff on here and expressing myself. So I find that sometimes I feel like I don't pay too much attention to the quality when I could get it together a little bit more. So this is my effort to get it together a little bit more. And I feel like this is a big step for me as an individual, because if you know me, I'm usually it's okay, da-da-da-da-da. I don't know. But I'm just proud of myself for actually taking the action and getting this new equipment, because this is totally something that I would continue to put off. I mean, if you guys watch me on YouTube, how long ago did I say that I needed to get a wide angle lens? That was maybe 4 months ago now. Come on. Also, before we get into the actual episode, I have something really, really, really exciting to tell you guys, which of course, when I post this on Instagram, everyone's like, you came out with your own activewear line. You guys just think so highly of me, and I appreciate you guys, but not yet. Basically, I am finally planning another retreat, and this time in the US. And this was something that a lot of you guys were requesting, and this was something I really would have loved to work on months and months and months ago. But I didn't really have the correct help, I guess, if you will, to do this. But I finally do now, and I'm super excited to give you guys a little bit more of kind of an affordable retreat option. And I say affordable in the sense that my intention is to have this retreat be more accessible to all of my USA people, because obviously it's going to be cheaper to fly within the US than leaving the country. So I'm hoping this is going to help you guys out. I'm wanting this to be a little bit more of a smaller scale retreat. So I don't think it will be as long as the Costa Rica retreats that I have up right now. But something, I guess, just more of another option, just essentially for people who are wanting to stay within the US, who are still wanting to come on one of my retreats, because I know a lot of you guys were interested, but weren't really willing to go to Costa Rica / also the weeks that we had it planned were kind of conflicting with you. So I really, really, really wanted to bring you guys another retreat, and it's finally happening. And I'm just super excited because, as you guys know, this is something I'm really wanting to grow and have these be something I do every few times a year. So basically, with all that being said, since we're still in the planning stages, there's no definite retreat planned. It's going to be very similar to my last retreat that I launched with you guys. I am going to need your guys' feedback back, a small favor for you guys, just so I can actually plan the best retreat possible, accommodate as many of your guys' needs and wants and desires as much as possible. So in the show notes and also like in the description box of my YouTube video that went live today, and it's also on my Instagram story, it's everywhere for you guys. Wanted to make this accessible, but there's a quick little survey. It's going to take like not even a minute, 1 to 2 minutes, just for you guys to give me feedback about like where you'd want to go, the vibe of the retreat, how much you're willing to spend, how long you're wanting the retreat to be, how many nights you're wanting to stay with me, just so I can, again, like I'm saying, really create a retreat that you guys are actually wanting and really just provide for you guys and give you guys the value that I want you to get out of this retreat. So I'm super, super excited about this for more ways than one. And I'm going to explain why I'm specifically excited about this one, as we get more of the planning process rolling so you guys can be more up to speed. But just for now, I'd really appreciate if you guys could click that link in the show notes, fill out that quick 1-minute survey. If you have any sort of interest in coming at all, keep in mind this is no strings attached. Like just because you fill out the survey does not mean we're going to be calling you off the hook or expecting you to be on the retreat. No strings attached. We just want anyone who's even remotely interested in going and is willing to give us some feedback to help us plan the best retreat possible to fill up that form, and we'd really appreciate it. So that's my little announcement. I'm super excited about it personally. I just feel really passionate about these retreats, and I really have a vision for where I would like to build these up to in future years. And so if you're wanting to be on one of like the OG retreats, just saying, now's the time. So finally getting into the episode, we're going to be speaking about anger and releasing anger, because this was actually, I've gotten a good amount of requests for this topic in the past, but like just recently it just felt right to do now. So here we are. And something about me, because I really, feel like it's important for me to open up about my quote unquote shortcomings, if you will. I don't even feel like that's an appropriate word, but I don't ever want to come across as like I'm perfect, like I had all this figured out, like this is what you need to do, like it's easy. Like no, I've struggled with my internal space so much. I still currently do. I'm such an emotional individual, and so that's why I'm so passionate about all of these things. And growing up, I would get angry. Like as my family, I would get so angry. And kind of how I explain, like when I get upset, this is still something I work on now. More so it happens when I get sad now, but just even when I get remotely upset in that category, I'm the person that tends to kind of shut down. I'm not someone who's like explosive and like yells, but I used to get really, really angry and then just like shut down and not speak. And I feel like a lot of you guys can relate to that, especially I feel like that's kind of like a young kid thing to do anyways. But I have 100% experienced my fair share of anger, and it was like a big thing that I dealt with that I feel like no one really fully acknowledged, I guess, and just in the sense of like I don't even really know if anyone fully realized, like if I feel like if my family took a second, they'd be like, oh damn, yeah, like Liv actually did get really mad and like would have temper tantrums often. So that was, I remember something that was like I really wanted to work on, because I just would allow little things to really frustrate me. And then the problem with that was then I would have that carry over into the whole entire day. And I feel like so many people relate to like, when you're pissed and then you like can't swallow your pride to like get over being pissed. So then you just have to like carry out being pissed all day. Like that was me in a nutshell when I was like 15, and I like looking back, it like makes me want to gag. Like that is so just gross to me. Like it just seems so immature to me. And that's something else I wanted to say. Like to me, anger is so unattractive, and not in the sense of like, I know it's still a natural human emotion and not trying to demonize anger in this episode, but just if I, especially now, like me being 23 and like where I'm at, maturity wise and everything like that, like if I'm experiencing people who just are gone rogue, like being super angry and can't control themselves, like to me, it's just like the epitome of being unconscious, unaware, and just like an unregulated human being who can't control their emotions, which I'm just like, come on now. So I'm really excited to bring you guys this episode, and I really hope this helps. So my biggest piece of advice with dealing anger is this one question, because when I was sitting down to write this, which also, by the way, you guys, I'm literally recording this before breakfast. That's how you know I'm on one today. I jotted down this outline in probably 3 minutes, and the ball's rolling, just so you know. Okay, I never record before breakfast. Everyone knows how Livfiit is with their breakfast. Anyways, my one question for you, this was the first thing that came to my mind when I was outlining this, is what are you resisting when it comes to your anger? Next time you feel angry, I truly want you to take a second, have the awareness of saying, hey, I'm feeling angry, right? Because we always want to be in that observer mindset. Like I said, there's no need to identify with your emotions. Create that space, be in your observer, and understand and become aware of like, okay, I'm experiencing anger. Great. Step 1. Step 2, what am I resisting right now? What do I mean when I say this? Let me explain. Anger simply arises, if you were to strip everything away, anger simply arises when you are carrying resistance in some sense or another to a situation. And you may have never looked at it that way before, but if you truly think about it, that truly is where the emotion of anger is stemming from at its root core. For example, let me give you a rather specific one that I tend to deal with often. My dad likes to come into my room when he's here visiting, and he'll just kind of bust in at 8 a.m. He's gotten so much better at it because I've really declared a boundary with him of hey, I need my morning routine. But more in recent year, I guess in past years, this was his MO. He would just kind of bust in the morning. And, that could be something of me getting really angry, right? I'm starting to get pissed off. That really bothered me. And that resistance is building up of me just kind of. Resistance is that feeling of being pissed. Resistance is just you simply resisting the present moment. And so when my dad busts in my room and I'm starting to get pissed off, why? The answer is because I really didn't want him to come into my room. So in that moment, I am resisting the current present reality of what is, which is the fact that my dad just came into my room at 8 a.m. in the morning. But what's causing that anger is that I was resisting that present moment. I was pissed about that current present moment occurrence because it's something that I didn't want to occur. So I was building up resistance to it. But once I actually accept the present moment, I accept what is, it's amazing how quickly the resistance will truly just melt away. And I've experienced this, obviously countless times firsthand, but even in this specific example with my dad, I used to get so irritated when he would come in my room. Why? Because I was just resisting. I was pissed about the present moment of what is. But when you fully just release that resistance and just accept that present moment of simply just the fact that my dad just came into my room at 8 a.m. in the morning and kind of are getting rid of that emotion, it just melts all that resistance away because you're kind of surrendering to what is. So there's nothing to kind of resist anymore because kind of the opposite of resistance is surrendering, right? 100%. So by you surrendering, that's what's allowing that anger to melt away. And referring to the common quote, what you resist persists. And that is the concept of anger at its finest. And that's kind of my whole huge perspective shift with anger of what I've personally realized. It's anger is something completely built up in your mind. It's such let me put it this way. I feel there's the common categorization of these are quote unquote positive emotions. These are quote unquote negative emotions, which yes, for a sense of reference, for sure. But I also feel there's constructive emotions, right? Which can also be quote unquote negative emotions, if you will, but they're constructive in a sense of giving you guidance. Anger, I feel is in one of those. Anger is one of those emotions to me that fits in the unconstructive, unproductive categories to me. I don't necessarily feel, if I'm sitting reflecting on this, I don't think that anger is super constructive a majority of the time. Okay, I think we can all agree on that. It's kind of something where you just are letting yourself unravel. So that's why it almost is just kind of you spinning your tires for no reason. Referring back to the quote, what you resist persists. It's simply just you resisting what is, and it's just continuing to persist and making you even madder because it's what you're resisting, which is where that anger is coming from. Okay, another example. This one's more common, more general. Let's say you're sitting stuck in traffic, okay, or someone cuts you off in traffic. Okay, this is something that road rage is so common, and you're starting to get worked up, right? You're starting to feel angry. You're starting to feel pissed. You're feeling that resistance building up within you, and that is the anger of emotion. That is what it is. I don't know how many times I could say it, but that anger is simply just coming back to the fact that you are getting worked up over the fact that the current present moment didn't go the way that you expected or the way that you wanted. So you are currently resisting that present moment, and that's what is making you pissed. So you're just completely building up this resistance, that anger, but then that's what's continuing to compound because you're just simply so focused on the fact of this isn't the way that I wanted the present moment to go. I'm pissed. And so you're resisting it because that's just what you do, and that's what's building up the anger, and that's what's allowing having you feel so freaking irritated. But I want you guys truly, the next time that you are in a situation, and start with something small, like being stuck in traffic. I want you guys to truly, when you start to get irritated and you're oh, I'm starting to get pissed, I'm in traffic or someone just cut me off, and you can feel that anger building, right? Because we have that awareness, that emotion is getting stronger and stronger, more potent. Stop, ask yourself, what am I resisting? and then affirm to yourself, I'm surrendering to the present moment. And just the emotion is going to vanish. I swear. And not in the sense that we are ignoring the emotion of anger. I also want to be very clear of that. It's not that you're gaslighting it. It's not that you're kind of just like brushing it under the rug or ignoring it. It is the exact opposite. Back to that quote of what you resist persists. When you are resisting something or you have that resistance energy, which is what I'm speaking about in this episode as anger, you are not allowing that emotion to pass through, hence why it's staying there and withholding that resistance and still making you irritated. Whereas when you surrender, that is kind of when you open up the floodgates, right? Because I'm kind of picturing like when you're resisting something and like you have this resistant energy, you're keeping it in this container and that's why it's festering and it has all this energy, right? Because it's energy. Emotion is energy in motion. So it's kind of trying to get out of this cage that you've been putting it in because that's what that resistance is, those borders that you're putting in there. So this anger is trying to, get out, right? Because it's energy in motion, but it can't because it's trapped. Whereas when you surrender, that's you kind of opening up those floodgates, opening up the door to allow that anger to come through, right? You felt it, it's in your heart space, and now it's able to pass through because the door was open on the other side, right? So I want to be very clear, like we're not ignoring the anger here. That's not my message. The message is to let the emotion pass through you by completely just surrendering, by completely accepting what is of the present moment. Because when you are accepting and when you surrender, it is impossible to carry resistance. They can't exist at the same time. If you are fully in a flow, in an accepting state, and in a surrendering state, if you're currently actually in the present moment, which means you are living in the present for what it is, you're fully accepting of the present moment for what it is, resistance cannot exist. Okay, that's a new quote that I just came up with, but it's so true. So with that, another point that I wanted to bring up here is that you have the power to choose what to energize. And this was a huge realization for me, and I think this is with any sort of situation, literally with anything in life. Whether this is, I honestly could make a whole podcast episode on this now that I'm thinking about it, but whether this is someone who gave you a dirty look, or you being embarrassed by something, or again, something making you pissed, or a situation that made you pissed, you completely have the power to choose what you energize. So what do I mean by this? The quote that I've been saying, which I realize I always get it mixed up every single time, and I just recently sorted it out, and I realized that I feel like every time I say this quote on the podcast, I say a different variation of it, and it's still wrong. And I'm kind of like, why didn't you guys tell me? But the quote, energy flows where attention goes. Meaning that you're the one to give life to any situation depending on where you're putting your focus, your attention, your energy. So back to the traffic example, if you allow yourself to, keep allowing that negative momentum to carry you and send you into a spiral of getting so worked up about the fact that you're stuck in traffic or that someone pissed you off. If you're continuing to ride that negative momentum spiral, you are going to continue to keep getting pissed off, because back to the quote, what you resist persists. Like you are continuing because that's what you're energizing. You're focusing on that. You're getting so, you know what I mean? You're putting so much energy and focus and mental energy into the fact that someone just cut you off in traffic. So that's what's going to continue to manifest. You're energizing it. It means more to you. Whereas if you just let it pass through, or if you just let it go and you're like, damn, someone just passed me off, like cut me off, like damn, maybe they didn't, whatever the case. I mean, for me personally, I usually try to look at different examples, like maybe they didn't even realize, maybe they're distracted, maybe they're in a rush, maybe their wife's in labor and they're meeting them. Like you don't really ever know what someone's story is. So that's like a side note of what I personally do to, like, when I get an urge to be irritated by a stranger, I'm like, well, I don't really know their story and what their intention is or why they're doing what they're doing, so no reason to get pissed about it, because you never know. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is, whereas if you just let that situation pass through, right, you surrender to the present moment, it literally means nothing. And this is another exercise that I want you guys to do, because it's amazing how true this is. Even to the point of, like, just the other day, I hit my knee when I was going to sit down at the table, and at first I was like, oh my gosh, and I just was dramatic because, I'm kind of dramatic, and I was like, oh, like that freaking hurt. And then literally I just was like, okay, like I'm actually done. Like it's fine. I'm fine. Like I'm just gonna let it go. And it's gone. Like it's just crazy how, this is why I just think, why I preach, not what I think, this is why I preach that everything is mental. Like we work so many things up in our mind, and it makes things so much worse, or it can make things so much better. Hence why I say your mind can be heaven on earth or hell on earth. But so I really truly actually want you guys to do this exercise. Like next time you get irritated or frustrated, stop and say, what am I choosing to energize? If I pour more energy into the fact that I'm irritated and pissed about this, is simply going to continue to allow me to keep feeling pissed. Is that what I want to energize? Is this the feeling that I want to feel for the day? No. And you just make the conscious decision in the moment to say, I'm not going to put energy into it. I'm not going to let it affect me. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to surrender, and I'm going to gear my attention and focus into something else. And it is absolutely amazing how much, like, it's, I also picture it like of you plugging the cord into something. It's like when you stop giving energy to those things that don't serve you, of you, for example, of you being pissed for kind of ultimately no reason, that's you pulling the plug from that and not energizing it anymore. And I swear to you, the more that you energize something, that's what you give life to, and the bigger it seems. And that's kind of also the quote, like, the more you focus on the good gets better, or like the more you focus on the more good that's in your life, because that's what you're choosing to energize. So it's all about what you're putting your energy into that's going to grow. Where you're putting your attention into is where your energy is going into, and that's what's going to grow. So there's no need to energize these things that piss you off. And once you actually realize that, like circling back to how I used to get angry, I truly do not get angry anymore. And I don't mean that I don't get angry. I'm just being factual. Like, I don't really get angry. I very rarely get angry. Don't get me wrong. I get upset. I get sad, but I don't get pissed, like angry, because again, I feel like it's such an unproductive energy and emotion to be in that like really does nothing. And I just feel like, again, it's such an unconscious behavior of you just being stuck in a non-solution based mindset, and you just kind of actively choosing to marinate in the resistance of the present moment, where for me, I'm always trying to find flow. I'm always trying to stay in that present moment. And like I said, when you're truly in the flow, when you're truly living in acceptance, when you're truly living in the now and the present, resistance can't exist. And this reminds me, I also want to direct you guys to an episode that I did called I don't even know what it's called. It's all about acceptance. And it was really early. Oh, I think it was called The Power of Acceptance, super early on, like episodes like 3, 4, 5, super, like one of my first episodes that I did. Still love that episode. So if you're needing help to accept the present moment, go check out that episode, because it's a super powerful one and still one of my favorite episodes to date. But back to this energizing point, it's just crazy because something that could have, like, let's say the stuck in traffic, for example, something that could have literally had the power to negatively impact the whole rest of your day. Because back to what I said in the beginning of the episode of like when you get pissed, like you feel like you need to ride out being pissed the whole rest of the day. Something that could have negatively impacted the whole rest of your day because you got pissed could literally only last a couple of minutes. Instead, if you just choose to release the resistance, ask yourself, what am I resisting? You chose to accept the present moment, and you chose to not energize the things that do not serve you. It is crazy. And that's just what I feel like has completely changed my whole entire life of this whole thing. It's like, this negative emotion that used to completely derail my whole day now lasts like maybe 1 to 2 minutes because I just let it freaking go. Last point that I want to speak with you guys for this epi is a quote that I've said multiple times, but I'm saying it to you for a reason because I feel like we all 100% need this reminder time and time again. And it's a quote by Shakespeare. Nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Essentially speaking on the fact that everything, what a situation, people, events, they just simply are what is. That is the only truth that lies in this world. A tree is a tree. It is snowing outside. That is it. So with that being said, it is our reaction to situations that is making us feel a certain way, not the actual situation itself. And a perfect example of this, I love that I just said this because I didn't write that down, but the fact that it's snowing. I'm not someone who likes snow. Okay, I don't want to say I dislike it, but like I'm so much rather like, let's go to Hawaii and like be on the beach. Like I want to be surfer vibes, right? And also like it's super cloudy today. For me, I'm like, this is kind of drab. Like this is making me feel stuck. I feel kind of sluggish, like no secret. But for someone like my dad, who's a skiing junkie, or my brother, they love skiing. So they're so stoked that it's cloudy because that means snow is coming later today. They're so stoked that there's snow on the ground and that it's snowing because that means that they have a bunch of new powder to go ski. So this is what I mean when it's the same exact situation. It's neutral. Simply just the fact that it's snowing, that is the fact, that is what is. But is my perceptions and then therefore my reaction to the said situation that's making me feel a certain way, not the actual situation itself. So why am I sharing this with you again in relation to the concept of anger? This is the same theory that I remind myself of, and something that again puts so much in perspective to me when I used to get really angry, to allow me to move away from feeling so angry about things, because I realized it just was simply my resistance to the present moment, which was just completely my own hell and mental prison that I was putting myself in, because it was up to my own perceptions of the situation. So don't get me wrong, it's still shitty when someone cuts you off in traffic. Like, I'm not trying to say like, just like, it's fine. Like, I get it. Again, not trying to gaslight your emotions or invalidate it. That's the word I've been looking for, invalidate. Anyways, that's what I was trying to say when like not trying to invalidate anger. But anyways, I just was trying to say that essentially, if nothing is good or bad, and I can have control of my reaction to a situation to allow it to, serve me in a way that maybe it wouldn't have served me prior, I'm going to choose to, have the perception of the situation to serve me, right? So for example, back to kind of what I was saying of like, you don't know people's story in traffic, like maybe they truly didn't see you. Or like, for example, when we kind of live in a neighborhood here, and okay, we get it, like 25 miles per hour, like, don't worry, like, okay, but sometimes I'm like not paying attention and I may be going like 5 miles per hour over, and like I would be lying if I say that I didn't get like an old lady here and there being like, slow down, or like you drove too close to me, whatever. And it was a genuine accident. Like, it wasn't me trying to be completely ignorant and like come, whatever the case would be. It was completely unintentional. It was completely like nothing with ill will. I just was purely jamming to my music and didn't realize. And I was like, oh, like, yeah, if I was more aware in that moment, I definitely wouldn't have actively chose to gone 30 miles per hour in a 25 or whatever the case may be. And that for me put the perspective of like, we always assume that people have like the illest intent of like, they totally meant to cut me off in traffic, or they totally meant to just speed by me, like blah, blah, blah. And that's just back to the concept of taking everything personally. And we're just making the assumption, which now I'm going into a whole other rant that could be 2 other podcast episodes, but all of those things are not the truth. It's what we're working up into our head. So if you can choose the perspective that's going to serve you, or in this case, allow that anger to kind of release and melt away and flow away, I'm going to choose that perspective. So like when I'm stuck in traffic, or someone cuts me off, I'm saying, hey, I'm feeling angry, but I'm aware of it. I'm going to let it go because I'm actively choosing to release the resistance, and I'm going to accept my present moment of that someone just cut me off in traffic. And I don't know their story. Maybe they're having a bad day and they were just unaware and they're being consumed in their own thoughts right now. Okay, that's it. Awesome. Moving on. Oh, stuck in traffic. I'm getting angry. Hey, I can't control this, so like it's no big deal. I'm just going to accept the present moment, choose to jam out to my music, and just be really immersed in this present moment because I know resistance can exist here. Boom. Done. Chilling, maxing. Felt the anger, didn't gaslight it, didn't invalidate it, but I just gave it the space to keep passing through me, and now I'm vibing in the present moment. As you can see, you're getting the vibe. Okay, you're getting my point. So anger is something that you do not need to energize. More of the story, you don't need to energize it. Let it pass through you, and I promise you'll be living a much more free-flowing life. And to anyone who really deals with anger, not to confront you, but don't be an unconscious person who doesn't know how to handle their emotions or control their emotions, okay? Like, find the good, see the good, max, chill out, be conscious, be more aware. Don't let that anger consume you and control you. Like, take your power back away from your emotions. Stop letting your emotions and mind control you. Control your mind so it doesn't control you. I'm a whole bookcase of quotes today. It is what it is. Anyways, I'm so excited that I sat down and like recorded this when I was feeling it, because I personally really like this episode. I feel like this is going to be super important. I feel like I'm going to reference this episode a lot. And I feel like this is such a big pillar that I'm truly hoping you guys can take action steps. So for those 2 exercises, just to also give you a review, 1, ask yourself what you are resisting when you are starting to feel anger. Like, truly pause and say, what am I resisting? Number 2, second exercise, when you're starting to get angry, ask yourself what you're wanting to energize, and also gain the awareness of what you are presently energizing, and ask yourself if you want to continue to energize that or change what you're energizing to completely change the course of your day. Because it truly all is, say it with me now, people, a choice. Everything is a choice. Your emotions and thoughts are a choice. Thank you. About to drop the mic. Anyways, for the affirmation for today, this is also different. I've never like written an affirmation like this today, but for some reason it felt right, and this is just what flowed out of me because we're in our flow states today. But it says, when I release resistance to the now, my anger melts away. When I release resistance to the now, my anger melts away. Ooh, guys, we're going to be a bunch of level-headed kings and queens. Like, we're just maxing, we vibing. We don't let things get us worked up no more. We just chilling. We just out here flowing. We're in the now. We don't resist shit because we just know that the uni's got us on a path, and any single thing that causes any sort of adversity is simply just an opportunity for us to deepen in our involvement as humans, to get even stronger, to, develop a deeper relationship with ourselves, get even more experience with how to deal with our emotions, manage our emotions. It's all for the greater good of help us evolve and grow as human beings while we're on this earth for our life experience, and that all that it is. So it's not that deep. There's nothing that deep to actually really get pissed. It's all working for a greater good. It's all going to work out. It's all for a reason. It's all to help us grow as people. And here we go. It's kind of like if a personal trainer was to give you, make you do one more set of, hip thrusts, and you're like, yo, this hurts so bad, this sucks, but it's all for the greater good. You know what I mean? It's kind of like when the uni gives you something that's going to arise anger in you. It's kind of like just a little test to see if you can deal with it. It's all for the greater good, All right, I'm really rambling on. Anyways, if you guys are interested in my USA retreat, I would appreciate it times 10 if you could just click the little teeny survey in the show notes below. I don't know why I'm in such a weird mood now because I'm kind of juiced up and I'm getting excited for my breakfast. But if you could click the link and fill out that survey, it's going to literally take 1 minute. Your honest answers of what you truly would like as a retreat experience from me for a USA experience retreat, whatever I'm trying to say, you get it. And yeah, I'd really appreciate it. I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode. If you did, I would love if you could screenshot it. You guys know what I always say, pop it on your story. Really helps this podcast grow, reach more people, and impact more lives, which is always my very clear intention. And if you want to leave a rating and review, it's also one of the best ways to support this podcast as well. Don't forget that the 12 Days of Livfiitmas is still going on over at YouTube. The schedule's also still down below in the show notes as well if you want to see what videos are airing and when. And I think that's all the housekeeping things I have to say. Thank you guys so much for all of your time, energy, and love. I'm sending you guys so much love, and hopefully I'll see you in the next epi. Peace out.